Part 2, Chapter 1. Billy Byron.
I suppose you could say I've known this Billy Byron just about all of my life, the stranger began. We growed up together, Billy and me, same street, same town, same orphanage, same school, St Jude's Elementary School, down the end of Mulberry Road. Barney goes to St Jude's, Ma exclaimed. Don't you, Barney? Or he did, anyways. Well, I never, he said. Small world. Strange, eh? St Jude's, Mulberry Road. Almost like we was meant to meet. Swear our orphanage was too. Mulberry Road. Mulberry Road kids, they called us. I remember that orphanage from way back, Ma went on. They knocked it down years ago, built houses there and a shop, Mrs McIntyre's place. And now that's gone too. There was torchlight dancing suddenly along the corridor outside. The door slid open. Guard here, ma'am. Just making sure you're all right. Came a voice. The torch flashed around the carriage. Then it was lighting up his face and his peaked cap for a moment as he spoke. Won't be long stuck in here, don't suppose. Anyone hurt? Ma asked. Any other carriages? Don't think so, said the guard. Not so far as I know, anyway. How long are we going to be here? Ma said. We've got to change trains in London. We can't be late, you know. We're going down to Cornwall. Lucky you, replied the guard. An hour maybe at most, madam. Sorry about this, but our Mr. Hitler will have his little games, won't he? Be back later. Sit tight. And he was gone, closing the door behind him and leaving us plunged into darkness again. Where was I now? Said the stranger. Hardly started my story, had I? You was in the orphanage down Mulberry Road, Ma told him. That's right, so I was. My dad put me in there when Ma died. Then he went off. Never saw him again. Good riddance, I say. Still, the orphanage weren't a bad sort of place. Gave us our names, roof over our heads, food in our bellies, but not much else. Cold at nights, and the food were terrible. But school was all right. They teased us orphanage kids something rotten, of course. Mulberry Road snotties, they called us. But Billy and me, we didn't mind. Sticks and stones and all that. We done everything together, bunked off together, got stood in the corner together, got whacked together. Happy-go-lucky, you'd call him. A cheerful sort of a Charlie. Always liked to draw, did Billy. Even then, birds. He liked birds best. Blackbirds, robins, crows. He could do them all. And people too. One time or another, he must have drawn just about everyone in that school. Teachers as well. And sometimes they didn't like that. They thought he was cheeking them. But he wasn't. He was just drawing them. We left school the same day. Walked out of the orphanage the same day too. Worked together in a hotel looking after the boiler and the garden, painting and decorating. Odd jobs. Lived in the place too, in a little room up in the attic. Weren't treated like orphans no more. Like slaves instead. They let us have one holiday in 2 years. One day, that's all. Went to Bridlington. We've been there, I said. I got a cockleshell from there, from the beach. I thought of our house then, all bombed out, and my special cockleshell, and my bus, and my tin soldiers. I wouldn't see any of them again. Lot in common, you and me, the stranger went on. Bridlington, lovely place, eh? Best fish and chips I ever had. Sat there on the beach, looking out to the sea, and longed to go there, to see the world beyond, over the horizon. Billy picked up a piece of jet there, off the beach. Shining black it was. Called it his lucky pebble. Was lucky too, most of the time. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Anyway, it was after that one day off we got thinking. We was right fed up with slaving away in that hotel. Had enough of it. Quite enough. Then I met this soldier in the park, by the bandstand one Sunday. Well, we both did, Billy and me. This soldier, He was playing in the band, and we got talking to him. And he said how he'd been all over the world in the army. Africa, Egypt, China once. Where had Billy and me been? Bridlington. Billy'd got no family, nor me neither. We didn't much like stoking boilers and digging gardens and painting doors and not having hardly a penny to show for it. And that soldier told us you got all the food you could eat in the army, good nosh, and for free too. So the long and short of it is we signed up for the army. They gave us uniforms and rifles, taught us how to go marching up and down, shoot a bit, how to polish boots and badges and keep our kit just so. And then we'd go marching up and down again. But that soldier in the park had been right. The food was good and regular and free. And soldiering was a whole lot better than working all day, it was. Except there was always someone bellowing at us, telling us what to do and mostly what not to do. Something like the orphanage, really, when I come to think about it. But we had lots of pals, and we were all in it together. All a bit of a lark it was. Then one day, we were all packed into trains with our rifles and in full kit. And a few hours later, we found ourselves marching through the streets, the band playing and everyone cheering us and waving flags. Felt like we was proper heroes, we did. And then up the gangplank we went onto this great ship. All one big adventure. That's what we thought it was going to be. Only just as soon as the ship put to sea, we were all sick as dogs, Billy too. But he kept smiling through, that's how he was. A cheery old card, always jolliest of us all, always chipper, and always drawing too. Could hardly write a word, Billy, but my, how he loved to draw. I tell you, I'd never seen the sea before, but when I did, I never wanted to see it after. Do you know what? It never stops moving under your feet, and that churns your stomach something horrible. So it was quite a relief, I can tell you, when after weeks of that heaving sea, we found ourselves on dry land again and marching again, even if they were still shouting at us all the time. We were in Africa, South Africa. Long way from where your dad is, son, but Africa all the same. We was travelling the world. The sun was shining and everything seemed to be just tickety-boo, excepting the flies and the bellyache. Tickety-boo? I asked him, puzzled. What's that? It's when you feel fine, he told us, when there's nought to worry about. We were all happy as skylarks, happy as Larrys, tickety-boo. So we did get to go to Africa, just like that soldier on the bandstand had promised we would. We saw giraffes and lions and elephants and all sorts. You should see the sun out there when it's setting, huge and red and so close you could almost reach up and touch it. Didn't do no fighting though. So instead they had us doing more marching up and down, more larking about, more sitting about. Happy days they was when I think about them now. All the food we needed, lots of pals and sunshine that warmed you right through. Billy drew whatever he could. Animals now mostly. Insects and trees and flowers. And the birds, of course. Vultures, eagles. He was never happier than when he was sitting outside our tent and drawing. You should see Billy's sketchbooks. There's just about all of Africa in some of those books. Then before we knew it, it was 1914 by this time, we found ourselves back on a ship again, steaming out of Cape Town and homewards across that same heaving, horrible sea. We were going home because the war in Europe had started against the Germans. The Kaiser had a huge, great army, and so he'd gone marching into Belgium. So to save brave little Belgium, we had to fight him. We needed all the soldiers we could get, and that included us. We weren't worried, excited more like. No more sitting about for no good reason. No more marching up and down for no good reason. Billy was keen as mustard, he was, looking forward to it. Well, we all were. We were soldiers, weren't we? We'd soon sort Fritz out. We did lots of larking about, lots of singing on that ship. When we weren't feeling seasick, that is. We none of us knew what we were going to. And thinking back, I suppose that was just as well.
Come back tomorrow for part 2, chapter 2.